U.S. tariffs and federal government restrictions on the oil and gas sector continue to be major concerns for Albertans. So is there any hope for change? Well, we're going to chat about that today with Alberta's Minister of Affordability and Utilities, Nathan Neudorf, who is also the MLA for Lethbridge East. He's joining us today from Edmonton. Nathan, welcome back. Thanks for joining us.
Great. Thanks for having me, Jeanette. Really appreciate it.
Of course. So why don't we start with the tariff situation with the U.S.? It's a bit challenging to keep up with what's being tariffed and what isn't. So what are the main areas currently having to pay tariffs when exporting to the U.S.?
Well, there's quite a number still there. Steel and aluminum, top of the list, which obviously impact a lot of our manufacturing. Some canola products in relation to the tensions between the U.S. and China. So that's of concern for our agricultural sector, and then some of the auto sector, which is more Eastern related with the integration of that market, and anything that's not really covered by the Canadian, US, Mexico agreement, which hopefully is limiting some things, but we've definitely got to do a little bit more work to negotiate away from those tariffs as much as we can.
Are there any particular sectors in Lethbridge that are being impacted more than others by these tariffs?
Yes, absolutely. Unfortunately, we do have a fairly strong manufacturing segment within Lethbridge, and the steel aluminum tariffs have a great deal of challenge, present a great deal of challenge for them, as well. Like I said, the ag sector and anything canola or food related that wouldn't be covered by CUSMA can be of great concern, as a lot of our industry is related around those two product bases and sectors. So we're doing a lot of communication with our Minister of Agriculture, RJ Sigurdsson, as well as the Premier and other ministries, to continue to advocate both at our federal level and the US federal level to remove these tariffs as quickly as possible.
What's Alberta doing to respond to the U.S.? And is anything also being done to soften that financial impact on businesses and consumers?
Well, in large part, it's been led by the provinces. As you know, we just came through a federal election, and we are looking forward to knowing who those federal ministers will be tomorrow as the Prime Minister unveils his cabinet. And then we can start working with the federal government a lot more than we've been able to make sure that we get combined voices to the table, to the right people in Washington, to begin the negotiations for really seeing some advancement in this. In large part, it's been led by our Premier and the Premier of Ontario to be the voices for Canada. There's more work to do, and having a cooperative federal government will be pivotal in the days ahead.
For sure. Nathan, are we seeing any new markets opening up globally for Alberta exports, like maybe including the ag sector, which is huge here?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've in Alberta, we've been very focused on Asia, Japan, South Korea, even into India, in that area. There's a huge demand for the products that we do have here in Alberta, and making sure we can get pathways to markets has been a primary focus. Having only one customer in the United States is great, a partner as they have been over the past. It does show a vulnerability in our economy to only have one customer. So we are very active in increasing those markets and access to those markets, and getting a very warm welcome. So we're really very, very encouraged by the signs that we're seeing early on.
Good. Okay. Where are things at with the Alberta relationship with Ottawa? I know Premier Smith has laid out these 9 demands for the federal government, such as ending the emissions cap, repealing Bill C-69, as well as the BC oil tanker ban, and ending net zero mandate, allowing coast-to-coast access to export oil and gas. So realistically, is Prime Minister Carney going to budge on any of this?
Well, I guess we have to wait and see. We definitely hope so. Federal elections, as many in Alberta will know, for a long time have been rather frustrating. We do often feel like the election's somewhat decided before we even get a chance to finish voting. And this time was no exception. We were much closer in getting a conservative government, which would have been much more cooperative with our viewpoint. But we didn't get that. So now we're waiting to see who the federal cabinet will be. And we are taking every opportunity to reset that relationship and begin again with some conversations, and making sure that they know our perspective, hoping they understand why we're bringing forward the concerns that we're bringing forward. But we really are hoping to see some action out of Ottawa. We've been promised things before. A lot of words, a lot of fancy words, a lot of words that sound pretty good, but then the actions and the follow through is not there. And that's partly why Albertans are as frustrated as they are. So we are willing to give diplomacy a chance at home as well and see if we can get a reset to that relationship and some action on some much needed items. We're looking forward to tomorrow and seeing what we can do going forward.
Okay, so with that said, what will Alberta do if Carney doesn't move on any of these demands?
Well, we are going to take steps to protect ourselves from Ottawa and make sure that we follow the Constitution and make sure that we challenge them in court to make sure that the federal government follows the Constitution so we can have clear lines of authority and that we can protect Albertans. It is literally our job, elected here in Alberta, to put Albertans first. And our premier has been very clear on that, that we will take the steps necessary to make sure that our economy and our people are protected. She is going to be setting and appointing a special negotiating team within the next few weeks to, again, make a table and provide a common ground to have those conversations. But we are not just going to sit and wait for the federal government anymore, and we are not going to take it without a fight if it requires. We are here to protect Albertans and put them first, and we are going to do that to the extent of the constitutional law that we have to do that.
Wow. With that said, the Alberta separation movement looks like they'll be likely meeting the requirements to force a referendum. And Premier Danielle Smith is being accused of stoking the separation fires. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't believe we are. I believe that we are trying to follow the Constitution, and for better or worse, the Constitution does provide an understanding if the people of any province feel frustrated enough. We are trying to follow that. We are trying to follow all the laws and treaties of the land, and our government will not be putting a vote on separation on a referendum. It is really up to the people of Alberta if they choose to under our laws on a citizen-led referendum, then we will have to listen to them. But we are not doing that as a government. We are listening to the people of Alberta.
Okay. There are some, of course, who believe that Alberta should, at least to some degree, follow Quebec's footsteps in using the threat of separation as leverage to force the federal government to bend. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's unfortunate when a relationship deteriorates to the use of threats, and to put it bluntly. And it's unfortunate that for a decade we have tried to get Ottawa to understand our perspective here in Alberta, and they just don't appear to be listening. As I said earlier, we have a new prime minister. He has come to Alberta. He has at least said the things that we need to say to help reset that relationship, but we've got to see action. And we're not going to be led down the garden path by fancy words and promises. We need to see that happen. And we are here to govern for the people of Alberta who have expressed in numerous ways a significant level of frustration. So we are trying to manage that in as constructive a way as possible and to make Ottawa aware that Albertans won't be tread upon lightly. They need to be respected and they need to be considered for what we offer Canada and for what we uh, give and pay into equalization. We'd like some respect for that. And the people of Alberta, I think, have directed us to stand up for them. And that's one of the things that we're here to do.
Okay. Nathan, you are the Minister of Affordability. So, what is the province doing to make things more affordable, especially when it comes to housing?
Absolutely. Well, I'll get to housing in a minute. The largest thing that we're doing to help in affordability is bringing through the promised tax cut. That's pretty significant in total. That's a $1.2 billion commitment to Albertans to tax them less and leave money in their pockets. Each individual can expect up to $750 a year every year that this tax reduction is in place. And a family, $1,500 a year. That's significant. And that's in perpetuity going forward. So we're very proud of that work to make sure that we have low taxes that helps everybody who works and pays taxes. As for housing, very proud to support Minister Jason Nixon, the Minister of Seniors, Community and Social Services, and the work that he's doing on that front to allow for supply to increase. We've seen a huge increase in housing starts. And of course, as that supply goes up, it stabilizes and hopefully moderates the price of a house. So we've also committed to supporting housing supports to the tune of $9 billion over the next 5 years, and to make sure that those who are struggling to make their payments have some avenues to get help. So there's a number of things we're doing on that, as well as working on lowering automobile insurance and house insurance. So lots of small steps. I know, not one whole huge silver bullet that solves every problem, but we're working on many directions and many ministries to help Albertans make ends meet.
Okay, speaking of directions, or looking in a different direction, do you have any updates on the ongoing saga of the AHS procurement accusations?
Yeah, that's one that we're watching closely, very concerned about. We want to make sure that we have transparency to Albertans, that they know exactly what's going on. The independent judicial review led by Judge Raymond Wyatt
Mhm.
out of Manitoba, he is to have an initial report publicly available by the end of June for Albertans. We are very interested in seeing what that says and following all of his rulings, and we're making sure that every piece of information that he's asking for is made available. We hope that this finds no incorrect actions taken by anyone, but if they do, we will follow through and make sure that the law is followed and obeyed, and fines or whatever might be the case are instituted according to the law.
Yeah, and sorry, when did you think that we might see that report from the third-party investigation from the Judge Wyant, and when will we see the report from the Alberta's Auditor General, Doug Wiley?
Judge Wyatt's report is due by the end of June.
Okay.
The Auditor General's review, he hasn't given us a specific date yet. He's working through a number of different pieces of information, quite a large volume of documentation. It might be a little longer than that, but of course, he is independent of government and will release that and his findings in due course and when he's completed his investigation.
Okay. All right. Alberta's Information and Privacy Commissioner has found the provincial government in breach of its legal obligations under the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, or FOIP Act. So apparently government departments were imposing restrictive conditions, limiting access requests to a single topic and restricting the time period for searches. So what is the government's plan to respond to this?
Basically, that we're happy to work with the Privacy Commissioner in their requirements. And as we work through this process and understand the technical nature of what's required, we will comply with all the issues that we have to comply with. For further detail, we'll ask further questions to go to the Minister of Service Alberta and Red Tape Reduction as the ministry in charge of those requirements and rules. So a little bit technical in nature, but we're happy to comply with the Information and Privacy Commissioner to make sure that Albertans have access to the information they need.
All right. Well, thanks so much for being with us today, Nathan. Appreciate having you on.
Thank you very much, Jeanette. Great to be here.
Nathan Neudorf is Alberta's Minister of Affordability and Utilities, and also the MLA for Lethbridge East. I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks so much for watching.